This should not have been included in the product graph, but we have seen a lot of instances where UIKit were automatically included in your graph. Final point on this is how the skin works. The skin that is created when you build a new app is actually inherited from one of the 3 skins that you saw when you build a new app. So those 3 skins there: default, Zen, and Nimble. So if you look at the inheritance there, it's going to inherit from PY end user and either Express default, Express Nimble, or Express Zen. And then those 3 skins are actually inherited on their side with PY PY end user skin. So you already have a stack of 3 skin out of box when you build a new app. So that's the main changes on UIKit 8 in terms of installation and application. Inherited one would change depending on the theme settings. Okay, so that's if you use Express. Do you guys have any question about the rule set, the app stack, before I move to the features? No? Okay, let's move forward then. Okay, so this is the old UI that was in 7.2.1, and this is the new UI in 7.2.2. So you can see at a glance some of the changes that were done on the UIKit 8. The most striking one is really the new menu that is now on the left. The header on the case manager has been much more simplified, and then you can see now these sticky headers there. That is actually not only containing the header of the work object, the work area header, but also it's now used to include notifications and also errors. So if you have an error, they will show on this line there. So if you look at the changes, the create new case has been moved to the left panel. We have removed the plus create and the next assignment links on the case manager poll. It's actually the links. There's actually a new widget on the case manager poll that we're going to see in the shortcuts that allows you to actually get your next work. Or it's also going to be in the review harness where you have a get next action that you can also use. So instead of having get next all the time in the case manager poll, it's going to be either used to this widget or just to the confirm to the review harness. Next button is actually still visible on the case worker using these actions there. Okay, so it's only for case manager that this has been removed. The sticky headers is now applied for all harnesses using the new work area harness. So let's work quickly through examples of this. So if I go to some of the screens in the case worker, so for example, my teams. So this is the sticky headers, right? The header over there is sticky, and also in this implementation, it's going to also be sticky, right? And if you see there, the pulse is also for my teams has been also changed to be visible from the right. If you create a new work object, so here I'm using the get next action, we are seeing that also it's a sticky header over there. And it has let's I don't know if I can generate an errors there, but the errors will be displayed at the top along with the sticky headers too. So that's the sticky headers, and then the stages have been moved to the bottom. So if you remember before, the stages were at the top, they're now showing up at the bottom. They are expanding to the full width of the work area, but from a functional standpoint, they are working exactly the same way. The other kind of changes is a new Pega logo there. We are getting rid of the 7. If you see on some of the screens, like the login screens. So This is the new design, so you can find the new Pega logo in UIKit. The parse icon, I'll show you that. I will go into a little bit more details on this. And the new case details, which was at the bottom of a work object, has been now moved to the right. So if I look back at UIKit 7, the case details will be over there at the bottom. It was a triple grid, and below was the case information. In the new view, the case details is now simplified, and I will walk you through quickly what it is on some later slides. But now it's kind of a new widget and can be definitely extended. What else? Some of the spacing also, and I think this is kind of the rule now for the design team. There is the 14 pixel rule that apply for a lot of the spacing for the different elements. So you see there between case details and the border, there's a 14 pixel, right? So trying to get the 14 pixel rule. The 14 pixel also applies for the on the right margin and the left margin also. The header is a 50 pixel for the case header. And the collect info is 46 pixel in order to be able to get a 7 pixel margin for the user profile, for the user icon. The big change also that you're going to see there is all the buttons have been now changed to have a mean width of 105 pixel, and that applies for Designer Studio as well for UIKit. So both of those schemes have been updated to use a mean width of 105 pixel for the buttons. And that's going to be the new design standard for all applications. So they all need to have a height of 32 pixel and then a minimum width of 105 pixel. What are the other changes on the screen that are relevant for this? So you see also that for large style, the 50 pixel is kind of the rule there. We're using 46 for collect info because of the something that is for the margin there, but this is kind of the laydown on the UIKit. Okay, so new widgets added to the dashboard. So 4 new widgets were added to the dashboard. The first one is called Case Manager Shortcuts, and I'm sure that some strategic apps are recognizing these widgets. Since it's already implemented in some apps. The Welcome to Case Manager is also a new widget that shows you a video and you can take a tour. So let's go quickly to a demo of these different widgets. So those widgets are, so if you see there, some of the implementations that have been done by strategic apps of these widgets really are not as accessible, so they don't have like the focus area. Actually, one of the slides we cover some of the major changes that were done around focus state and active states. So if you see there, when I'm hovering over, there's a focus state that is applying on all the shortcuts because those are actually buttons. And it's critical that when you build something like this widget, you really think about is it an action or is it really an icon? Is it really like an action or like just a text? Some of the implementation of these widgets were not really thinking about the focus area. So I would highly recommend that teams that have already implemented these widgets have a second look at what is included in UIKit, so that you can really use this, maybe use the new widget. So here I'm going to show you like some of the application have actually 6 widgets. They have actually 6 shortcuts most of the time on this widget. So here, if you have the six shortcuts, they just work the same way, right? So everything is, you have the arrows between the grids, so it looks like a grid. You can have 9, you can have 12, whatever makes sense. And you see they are actually configured as button, so you can have your actions there. So you can easily take this section, create a new widget on your side that is specific for your strategic apps, And the advantage of using this out-of-the-box implementation is they are fully focusable. So if you when you over to one of the one of those widget, then the keyboard is going to work, right? So I have here, I can really focus and go back and really open the action. So this is something that accessibility, keyboard accessibility, as well as focus and active states have to really be looked at, even for all the apps. And this widget, this shortcut widget, is something that has been built with that in mind. And as such, I would really recommend all the teams that have either to implement this widget that don't have it yet, or even if you have it already, to really look at this implementation and potentially leverage this one. The other new widget is the case manager. It has the new function, which is taking a tour that was introduced with Express. So it's also something that is becoming more and more part of like the introduction of the new features. So I'm sure that a lot of the strategic apps are going to leverage the tour ID and being able to create a tour using the rules. So this is something that has been around for a couple of releases already, but now it's actually also used in Case Manager. The don't show again is also a way to you can actually use the activity that is shipped by default that allows you to hide a widget. So what this activity is going to do, the don't show again, is going to actually remove the widget from your dashboard automatically. So how people would do that right now, they would click on the delete and publish. When you click actually on the don't show again, it's actually going to perform all this action on your behalf. So I'm going to click there, going to refresh, and then the dashboard is going to be updated. Right? So something to think about if you have that, if you have this need for your strategic application. So if you look at the widgets that have been added, quickly we see the new Case Manager shortcuts that is over there. You can actually reuse the icon if you create a new shortcut yourself for your apps. So it's under Case Management, but you can put that under your own strategic app. And there is a new case status widget that is added over there that is going to show a donut chart. Then we have, in terms of work list, we have a new team work list widget that I will show you afterwards. And then we have the new Welcome to Case Manager widgets. So 4 new widgets were added in this release for UIKit 8. So this is the case status. So this case status is actually also some of the strategic apps might already implement this case status. The main advantage of using this new case status is that it's actually closer to the design, where the text is inside the pie chart, and it's actually a thinner pie chart that is displayed. This was achieved by writing a custom chart on Fusion Charts, because Fusion Chart does not, our currently chart control does not support out-of-the-box this functionality. But this case status is fully localizable, so create, triage, fix, and resolve can fully localize, including the text that is sitting inside. And it's actually should use all the status for all your different cases. So if you don't have one, again, recommend to use it. If you see also that all the dashboard, all the widgets are now using the standard container format there, so they all have this kind of container format where the expand and collapse, and there's the border there. If you look at Designer Studio, they are actually very similar. If you go to the application rule, it's actually using a similar format, which is now the standard format, the default format for the containers. So this is kind of what the design team is now trying to move forward for all standard formats for containers to really exactly look the same from one app to the other. So you see that you recognize that the layout of those standard this default container format is the same there on the Case Manager. So this is a new also widget, the team worklist widget. Here you can actually filter, you can see all your users as well as all your work baskets. So if it's a work basket, there's not going to be an icon. If it's a user, there's going to be an icon. There's going to also to be your picture. So it's a better widget than the previous one. The previous one, you actually had to click on the team members and the work queues to actually view the work list from the other users. Now with a single work list, with this single widget, you can actually at a glance quickly see what kind of work list, work object is assigned to this user. You have a total open count, and also you have the overdue count that is also shown over there. So that's on the 4 widgets. Any question on the call about the widgets in the case manager, Paulo? Before we move to some of the other features? No? Okay. But you guys, if you have some questions at the end, again, we have 2 members of the UI Samurai team in Hyderabad and also in Bangalore, so you guys should definitely follow up with them at the end of the call. I have a lot of slides to cover for this 1 hour, so I'm trying to keep the space. So worker harness, that's actually a very critical features, and I want to spend some time to show you actually how it is implemented. So the way to look at this is actually also a sticky. The dashboard is also using a sticky header. So all those harnesses that I showed you are using work area harnesses. So let me open a harness. So let's go to this PY team dashboard. And you are going to see there's a new settings now. So if you open this dashboard, it shows you as a screen layout. Right. So this is the first surprising thing, because screen layout before you only had one screen layout. That was your Polo screen layout. Right. So your screen layout was before your overall Polo harness, right? And you had the expand collapse, so it was a left panel and so forth. But it's still called a screen layout, but now a screen layout is inside another Polo harness. And so when you look at this, you don't really know if it's an actual. So there are 2 types of screen layouts now. But if you go to advanced, you're going to see now this harness usage settings that is available and this checkbox. So if you click it, now you can actually drop a screen layout, and it's actually a simplified version of the screen layout. It has only 4 categories. If it was a real screen layout, it will have, I think, like around 12 formats. So it has the header, footer, and content only. And the good thing is that if you have a header, you can have a fixed header, so that's how you get to the sticky headers, or you can have your header scroll through the page, which will be the default behavior. So all the harnesses have been converted to this implementation. So if I look at the perform harness, they will follow the same paradigm. So the perform harness in UIKit is also implemented as a work area header. Right, so we see that over there. And it has actually as a header and a main. I will walk you. I have a slide that covers the differences between the old perform harness and the new perform harness. But so that's something that since now we are moving to this concept of sticky headers. That's something that all the apps, the strategic apps, needs to start to move towards when you start to upgrade to 7.2, which is looking at all your harnesses, converting them to work area harnesses, and implementing the header and the main, or the header, main, and footer, so that you can really have sticky headers implemented in the model. So that's a very critical feature that was introduced as part of the core product, and is fully leveraged in UIKit. Before I move to the differences between the perform harness, does anybody else on the call any question on these work area harnesses? No? Okay, let's move to the next one. So I think this is a very critical slide, and when you start to upgrade to 7.2, I would highly recommend that you look at this slide for all your harnesses, because you might have saved. So on the left side, on the right side was the old perform harness as it was implemented in the UIKit 7 and previous UIKit version. You would see that first the top level harnesses error messages were the top level harness, right? So they were always using the default perform harness errors. and it was a PY case container with warning and PY case container section. Inside, you had the PY case headers, and the assignment errors were actually shown inside the PY case header using this section there. And then you had a PY case body. So if you see there, we have actually removed the top level harnesses. If we go actually to the perform harness, and I go to display option, it's actually a critical settings there. Now it's no longer using default or top of the harness. It's going to say, I want to have it in the configure section, and it's called PY case error section. And this PY case error section is now a customizable section. You can actually customize it and change it if to meet your look and feel. By default, it's using the harness errors list that is actually part of Pega Desktop 25. And so you can, now it's going to be included, if you look at this slide, the PY case error section is going to be included in the sticky headers, just below the header and the action area for the header. Right? So everything is contextual now. If you scroll down, you always see your errors. They are really sticky. In the past, those errors will be lost. If you scroll down, you will never see the errors. So now they are always still on the top. They're always sticky. The same applies for the PY case messages. So that was on the header. One thing to notice is that we have changed the name of the section. Before it was called PY case header. In order to make it easier for upgrading to UIKit 8, we have actually created a new namespace so that you can maybe keep your override in PY case header and slowly move to the new structure. So the new structure is now PY case header header, and it's actually including a section that was it is actually including the worker header inside it. The same applies for the body. Before it was a section called PY case body. Again, to avoid, if you have done some override in all your harnesses and all your work cases, the new name is now called PY case main. And if you see, the big change is actually that the PX context feed is now first. And that's a big change, because if you look before, PX context feed was at the bottom. So why it was done this way? It was mainly for accessibility reasons, because if you are on a work object, so I'm going to open this service request too. And if you are fully keyboard accessible, you're going to see that everything has been thought as being keyboard accessible, right? So this is something that we have been focusing also on UIKit 8, and I think that all the strategic apps really need to think about. So here I'm tabbing, I am on the actions menu. I'm tabbing, I am on the pulse. If I hit enter, I'm actually opening pulse. At this time, if I tab, I should be able to move to say something. I don't have to. I should be able to right there, being able to test something. Tab again, go to post, tap enter, and then I'm able to enter something in pulse. Right? If pulse was not at the top of the DOM, then you'll have to tab all the way in your work object to the bottom to be able to get to pulse. Right? So that's why pulse is there. The good thing is that when pulse is collapsed, because the pulse is not visible, it's actually, so if I move back, again, I'm all using my keyboard there, there's no mouse, I'm doing enter, right, so I can collapse the pulse. Now if I tab, I'm actually going to get in the work object, right, so because pulse is being collapsed, the tab is going to not use the section is not visible, and then it's going to switch right there to work object. So you can still have the benefit of tapping into pulse when it's open, but at the same time, you don't lose the benefit of being able to have keyboard access inside your work object like it was before. So that's a critical change. So that's one of the reasons also why we decided with going with a new section name instead of reusing the existing one, because it will have caused some certainly some upgrade issues. So the goal is to make it easier to upgrade to UIKit 8 and make it a step, an easy step. If you look at one of the work objects that has not been upgraded to the new structure is the ad hoc case. So here you can create a new ad hoc case, right? You remember this quick create functionality that is in the case manager. This one allows you to create quickly create a task, and this harness on purpose was not upgraded to actually show you that without any change to this perform harness and to this case, we were actually looking roughly the same way as it was before. You see that there's no sticky headers because we are actually not, we did not actually upgrade the perform harness. But if you look at there, it's actually still picking up some of the new widgets I will show you afterwards, which is the new case content widgets. And it has the pulse is still at the bottom because there's an override. It was overriding because it's still using PYK's body, right? So there's no impact on that. So you don't get the pulse as the overlay there, but at the same time, your perform harness and your case looks in a decent shape, right? And you're getting some of the benefits of the new UIKit, especially on the case details and the review harness there. So that's kind of the, so if this is the perform harness again, on this one, no sticky headers. And as you see, it looks, from a look and feel, it looks the same way as before, even if it wasn't touched. So that's a very important slice there. I would really encourage you to really look at that, especially when you upgrade. What are the sections that you already have overridden in your strategic apps? Which one maybe you should start to move towards and use the new naming space, right? And start to implement the sticky headers, right? So that's kind of the, it's definitely going to require some work to move from a non-sticky harness to a sticky harness. My recommendation is that the less override you do around the perform harness or the PY case header outer or the PY case main, the header, if you use the one at work dash, it's going to be much easier. So I think that the one that you can definitely, you should definitely customize are things like the case details, right? This is something, the PY case assets, I'm sure that you already have customized that. PY case information is something that is highly customized also. And then if you look at the PY case action area, it has also been simplified a little bit compared to UIKit 8, but it's no longer using the old PZ action area content or something like that, which was an old. This change was already done in UIKit 7, but this is actually the correct way to do that because when we start to move to Flexbox, and I know that some teams have already started to move to Flexbox, one of the critical things that you should be aware of is that if you use IE11 and you have any table layout in your DOM, then a Flex is not going to behave correctly. You're going to have some issues with a Flex implementation on IE11. And so this would happen, for example, if you use the old PY case action area, that is not part of UIKit. If you use the old one, this one actually includes a table layout. And your flow action, the section of your flow action will not behave correctly and will not look correctly if you use I11 because you are going to have a table layout inside your DOM. Maybe let's go to showcasing what I really mean by that on the PY case action area. So that's a very critical point because it's some of the typical confusion there that teams are going to face when you upgrade to Flexbox. So if I open, so this is let's open the old perform harness from. I'm going to open the old perform harness from and user UI just to go back to this because I think it's called so PY case contents. Let's search for that. see there. Case content. Okay, so this is the UI case action area. So that's the old one that I want to see. Actually, this is the one that was fixed in UIKit 7. Let me open the one from UIKit 6. Sorry, I thought it's on the right one, but no action. Okay, here we go. It's called PZ action area content. If you look at this PZ action area content, it's actually a free-form table layout that was actually including the flow HTML simple. Right. So if you have in your apps, if you are using the old, so this is the PY case action area from UIKit 6. You see that this one will include this PZ action area content. If you still have something like this in your application, you are going to get into trouble when you start to upgrade, when you start to use Flex layouts. And actually, a lot of teams, I've seen a lot of bugs coming in over the past couple of months, where teams, because Flex is now the default in 7.2.1, when you drop a new layout by default, it's Flex enabled. What is going to happen is that you're going to build your app, and then suddenly on i11, you're going to realize that some things are not looking right. And it's because now you have been doing a mix and match of Flex and inline block layouts. And by including this table layout in your flow HTML simple, the PZ action area content, you're going to get into this issue with Flex and i11. So the correct way is if you use the UIKit action area in UIKit 7 actually or 8, it's actually not using this PZ action area content. It's actually including directly the flow action HTML simple. So I think it's a critical point that I wanted to raise for this meeting, because you are very knowledgeable about your app, so you should definitely pay attention to this because it's going to cause some issues moving forward. And that's the issue starting to see. So I would highly recommend that you look at the PY case action area that is actually included in UIKit 8 and start from that if possible, and potentially avoid to override that, but at least start from this new section that is in UIKit 8. Okay, parse. So we already covered that. It's position fixed. There's some couple of override CSS in PY case manager header override. Let's look quickly at how they are. So that if you want to, for the out of the box, you should be able to use those the current settings. That if you have some question there, if you have some override that you want to make, you can do that over there. So here, this is the pause gadget icon in dashboard. So this is the icon that is implemented. And then here you see the position of the pulse, which is a certain width. It is position fixed, right? And it has some transition there. It's actually using a 3D transform, so which is more efficient than you doing a translate. So I know that some teams have implemented the pulse widgets. I would highly recommend that the team have a look back again at how it is implemented, and potentially use the one coming from UIKit, because like I showed you, it's fully keyboard accessible, and actually it has been gone through a lot of testing. One thing, for example, that is supported is if you do a pound sign, and there you have the tags, right, that are fully working and are looking right, and this is done to override CSS to make sure that they work on both sides. And so it has gone through a lot of different iteration and testing by the case management teams as well as by the UI Samurai teams. So But I highly recommend you guys to really look at the out-of-the-box implementation UIKit and use it as easy as possible. If you have to make a couple of override, you can actually look at the CSS files there. But I think the UIKit 8, as I explained at the beginning, is really the foundation. We want teams to avoid recreating the same pulse widgets 10 times. And I think this is what has been happening this year, because this was not, UIKit 8 was not ready. So hopefully for the apps that haven't included it, it should just come for free. But for the apps that have already included that, I will have a look when you do upgrade to 7.2.2 to see how much you can reuse from UIKit 8 and how much custom you can start to strip out and use UIKit 8 instead. Fully cable accessible, use 3D transform to improve performance on browsers and devices. So Pulse is fully working on iPad and Android and so forth. So and this is also by using this 3D transform instead of using a regular translate that is not using hardware acceleration. New case view widget in the review harness. We looked at that briefly. It's the old, if you remember, the old view cases. So actually, it is when we look at a case. This is the old open assignments. This one was using non-auto-generated controls, non-auto-generated section. Everything was not auto-generated over there. So we are keeping right now this open assignments when you are in a perform harness. But when you end up in a review harness, now the new widget is now showing up, and we're no longer showing you the open assignment widget that is on the right. So this is kind of becoming the de facto widgets for the review. It has the ability to view all your assignments, the ones that are completed and the ones that are pending. And it's all auto-generated UI. So all these UIs are using auto-generated control. So that's also why we can now show the operator's icon, which could not be done in the old widgets. Everything is auto-generated using a tree grid. And so you can definitely customize this tree grid, add new columns if you want to. It's actually also accessible. It's actually responsive. So you see that here, at a given size, it's going to collapse. The icon is going to remove. It's not fully, because the grid is not fully responsive, but you can see that even on a small device, you can actually see the grid. We are adding the opera icon. If you look at the create service request, it's wrapping on a certain width. So it's not the best responsive gadget that we have out there, because tree grids are not fully responsive, but we have done some work to make sure that it looks fine on a different device width, especially on mobile and tablet. So that's the new widget. It is responsive. You can open a child. You have this open link there that allows you to open the child case, and it's going to open the case in a review harness. If you click on begin, it's actually opening the assignments. Open is actually opening the case, the child case. There's also a big change that was done around urgency and party to combine that in a single icon. And I'm sure that you have certainly seen some design from the design team for your apps that are also moving towards this way. Instead of having those very long those very long dates that add the very long dates, now we're moving towards a very what we call short date format. And a short date format can have two different options. The first one is it could be like 1 month, 1M, 1D, minus 3D, or it could be in 1 month or 10 days ago. So it's a much shorter format than the one that you had previously. And to configure that, you actually pick the date format that is this short format. It's a new format that has been added on the display on the datetime control. And also you have this option that says do not display past or future text. So this is this checkbox. Checkbox may be a little bit confusing, but what it really means is that if it's checked, you are going to not have the in or the ergo in the text. If it's unchecked, you get the in and the ergo. And then the round seconds after number after, by default, if you put 0, you're only looking at the first number, mainly the more important number. We're not looking, for example, if it's 1 month, we're not going to show the number of days and the number of seconds or minutes, right? So if you look at how this is how this control is showing up, it's going to include both the urgency, which is the 1M minus 4M, right? But also the priority, which is using the color scheme, right? So the severity is displayed as the background color. Severity is the severity of a case. There are two types of limit. If it's an assignment urgency, the limit for medium is 20 and 40. Those are the one rules that drive that. If it's a case urgency, it's 30 or 60 for the limit. So depending on those values, the background color is going to turn either as white, orange, or red. Right. So if you look at this single widget allows you to show two different things in a very small amount of space. So that's why we are moving towards this new format. And so it's something that you see in the case D. If you go over there, right? So 0 is my urgency there. You're going to see also over there, right? So here the dash means that this case does not have a deadline, right? So empty deadline, right? So what we're showing as the text is the deadline. So dash means there's no deadline, right? And since there's no background color, means the urgency, the severity is the urgency is certainly below the medium level, right? So this might be a little bit confusing at once, but I think that once you get used to it and you understand how it's being structured, you're going to see that it's going to save you space on the screen and really bring the value right there for all your different widgets where you want to showcase the deadlines, the priority, as well as the urgency of a case in a single widget. The screen flow harnesses are also being updated to use the sticky headers. One thing that is also interesting is that when you tab there the key, if you are after the pulse, you're actually going to step 1, step 2. That allows you to switch to the steps right there. Before, it will actually go to the form, and you could not go to the steps. So if you are using a tree navigation, a tab key will actually move you to the steps. So it's fully sticky. So we're using sticky headers and sticky footers for the tree navigation and the tab screen flow. We haven't done too many changes around the breadcrumbs, how the breadcrumbs looks, and how the steps look for the tree navigation. This is something that we will do certainly in UIKit 9 to refresh it up, make it better. Right now it's still something that hasn't been touched in a long time. But you can really see right there out of the box that the new screen flow is actually has been really upgraded and really looked similar to the Perform harness. So if you are using a screen flow in your app, I would strongly recommend you to look at the new harnesses that are coming up in UIKit for the screen flows. Also, big change there was around the blue colors. The Pega blue has been changed. The blue links, we're trying to standardize the blues. If you look at your application, I'm sure that you're going to find that you have like maybe 10 to 15 blues. We try to cut down on the number of blues and simplify it greatly. So the recommended blue is now 006DFF, and that's used for blue links, stage blues, simple buttons. So all those blues there. So you should really look at your blues because we have seen a lot of apps where we're using so many different blues, colors. And the main reason for doing that is accessibility. Some blue colors are not, don't meet accessibility standards. And some blue colors do. So Chris Lachance is the expert in this area and has been really pushing hard to really make sure that we're using the right colors that meet the accessibility standards. Same apply for green and this serif button color. So those are the couple of blues. If you're not using these blues in your app, you should definitely look at it again and circle back to make sure that you have a consistent set of blues in your application. Over in Focus State, a lot of change was done in this area. There's a new spreadsheet that has been added called PY Element State CSS that allows you to have the focus and the overstate on all the buttons, links, video buttons. So this is a link to the Dropbox. I'm running against time, so I'm going to quickly skip on this. Other missed changes is converting to Flexbox. If you look at this mesh document, there's actually an activity that is now provided as part of the product in UIKit that allows you to upgrade a set of sections in your rule sets to Flex. So you enter your rule set name, your rule set version, the name of the activity that you want to perform, and then it's going to upgrade automatically all the section in your rule sets, creating a nice branch that you can use for testing. The saving is huge, especially if you are not using i11. You are going to save 2 divs per layout, so it's a significant saving. If I look at this DOM size there, this is the same photo, the same case with 7:1 versus 7:2. You're going to see that we have been reducing the average nesting depth from 32 to 27. It's still not a great number. We still want to improve that, but you see that there was definitely a reduction there. And if you look at the number of nodes and elements, those have been also reduced thanks to moving to this Flex conversion. So I will highly recommend that all the strategic apps, you look at your sections and also start to run this tool because it's a very easy to run tool, and then it creates a nice branch, and then you can really definitely improve the size of your DOM. You see there you see all the deadline that was showing up there. Now it's actually a sticky header. So also maybe there was no screen for that. Goal for UIKit 9. So the UI Samurai team is going to engage on 7.3, which is the next release. Some of the focus for UIKit 9 is going to be enhanced support for mobile, tablet, and phone. There's a lot of design that we haven't even touched for mobile and phone, tablet and phone. So we're going to focus on that for UIKit 9. We are going to leverage the sticky headers even more. If you look at right now, sticky headers is only used for the pulse and the action. But the goal is really that we want to see that as a toolbar for UK, so really have more actions over there. And instead of having everything visible by default, like tools, we want to make them available in the header, right? So these are going to become action on your header. So this is going to be the next step. Is now that we have these sticky headers, we want really to use it as an active bar for all your actions. We are going to remove the tools widgets, move this action into the header. We're going to keep working on releasing and clean up the CSS override. Right now we have added a lot of override for the focus and the overstate for the new primary navigation. Those are going to move into the mode and try to reduce that. So it's an ongoing journey, but for this UIKit 8, we have definitely increased the number of CSS override to be able to achieve the design. So for UIKit 9, we're going to try to move back and reduce the CSS override. And then also we want to drive to make the UIKit out-of-the-box application completely accessible and being WCAG 2.0 AA compliant. So I think this is also one of the things that all the strategic apps needs to aim at, which is accessible apps, accessibility compliant. So we want to make sure that UIKit by default is fully accessible and is a great showcase of what the strategic apps can build on, so that you can take it forward, take the baton, and really make your application fully accessible. So that's kind of the goal for UIKit 9. So question and issues. This is the workspace that we're using. It's called the UIKit. So I would strongly encourage that you posting questions, you posting comments on this UIKit workspace. What we're going to do for UIKit 8 and 7.2 is that we're going to also provide fixes and support for UIKit 8. Before, we never provide any hot fixes for UIKit 8. The main reason is that we don't have a team that was allocated for UIKit 8. Now that we have the UI Samurai team that really owns UIKit, that is really now a full-fledged team, we are in a position to be able to provide support for UIKit 8. So if you have questions, if you see bugs, if you see issues, and you really think that we should fix that in UIKit 8, you should reach out using the workspace, right? Post something, put a comment there. We're not going to add new features to UIKit 8 per se. We will try to move all the critical pieces and new functionality in 7.3 in UIKit 9. But if we think there's a lot of value of moving some functionality into UIKit 8, or if there are some critical fixes that we want to add to UIKit 8, we will do that. So what we'll do is that we will use a new ruleset version, like 01, 01, 02, and so forth, to provide some new fixes for UIKit 8. and we will certainly post the UIKit 8 changes on this mesh page. So I would strongly recommend that you guys that are UI specialists really follow the UIKit workspace and really start to use that as a way to share and interact with the UI Samurai team. So that's all what I have for this meeting. We actually used the 1 hour slot for this. We have two representatives of the UI Samurai team in Hyderabad with Sandeep and Sakti, and then in Bangalore we have Shweta and Bharat that are here to really follow up with you after this meeting. So I know that there's a lot of other meetings right now with 7.3 for some of the teams around the goal. So before we wrap up this call, we can take a couple of questions, issues. Do you guys have any question on this slide? I will post this slide on the mesh exactly on this page there. So you should be able to see the slides if you have not been able to see it from the Dropbox. So I will post it on the mesh page, and I will send to all of you the link to it. But the mesh page is over there, the link. So any question on the call for this UIKit 8?
Hi Richard, can you able to hear me?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, this is regarding keyboard accessibility. So how can we activate the keyboard shortcuts? And so you pressed only tabs, right? Is there any other shortcuts also?
What do you mean by shortcuts? You mean the widgets, the shortcut widgets?
Yes, shortcut widgets.
Okay.
When you press tabs, it was focusing on the dashboard icons, right? So is there any activation part, or by default it will be activated? And one more thing is there any possibility that browser or window shortcuts will override our application shortcuts?
So here, there's no special shortcuts. It's just using tabs. So by making a button or a link, automatically your browser is going to detect that and make sure that it's accessible. So the best practices is to never use icon. For example, if you use an icon with an icon class, this is not accessible. So if I look at, for example, this icon there, this is accessible because actually it's using a button. So, but it's not. There's no keyboard shortcuts. We're just using the regular tab, and your browser is able to identify what are controls that are accessible. So buttons and links are the ones. So if this was implemented as a display text, for example, this is not accessible. So you will never get focus area on this one. So that's where the shortcuts have been implemented as buttons, because now you see the full tile is running as the active state instead of having a small icon there that will look kind of different. Does it answer your question?
Yes.
This is Chris LaChance too. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes, Chris, we can.
Yeah. So so that Richard's right. So anything that's a button or a link is able to be focused on the keyboard. We can also do it dynamically. I don't know if we're doing that for UIKit 8. You're also asking about key commands such as Command Shift P or whatever. I'm assuming as well. So no, those shouldn't. First of all, we have to be really careful of using those in general because a lot of different screen readers have their own sets of shortcuts. So you may be actually taking functionality away from a screen reader and actually hampering accessibility. So before you use a keyboard shortcut, you really should do your research on what you're conflicting with that's out there being used in the browser as well as in screen readers. So be really careful with that one. In terms of buttons that are just icons, you can provide text, and they should be able to read them out. But if it's just an icon, a PIA icon, without any text associated, they gain focus, but a reader won't be able to understand what the object actually is. So it might just read out as button instead of refresh. And lastly, for UIKit 9, and something that we're doing in Designer Studio, is when a user first tabs on the screen, it actually will give you a couple different actions to jump to different areas on the page right from the header. So in Designer Studio, you're going to be able to actually focus into the main work area. You can focus into main navigation, focus into search just through 3 different buttons to be able to jump to those areas. And that's something that I'm hopefully planning on encouraging to go into UIKit 9 as well. So there are accessibility changes coming.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a very big topic. I think that all the apps really, you have to look back at accessibility because we're trying really to push, and UIKit is the foundation for that with the active and focus state and all this work that has been done. So we're really trying to push for accessible UI out of the box. So you really have to really get comfortable with what it means, what not to use for really think if it's an action, it should be something that moves you to a different page. Should really not be a display text, right? It should not be so it has to be either a button or link, right?
Hi Richard, I'm sorry. Hi Richard, this is Niranjan. So my question is mostly related to stages and stage. Any reason earlier the stages on the top and right now it is moved to the button? Any reason for that?
It was not to color the UI because otherwise, but it's something that you can easily change and move it back as part of your app. But we felt that it was more important to show you what you could use rather than again, it was a design decision at this point, but it's something that you can customize and move back to the top if it makes sense for your application.
Yeah, and I'll speak to that too one more time. Is that in some cases, the stage is less important than the actual action areas and work areas, and sometimes it's super important. So one of the applications I'm working on, Pega Project, the stages is like one of the most important things because that's actually how you accomplish work. So there's proposals even to put it right in the actual sticky header down, so you know, moving it down the page. So that's some of the stuff we're going to be visiting UIKit 9. What are the patterns and what are the usages and why are things being moved in certain areas? So that's something we're still looking into.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, one thing that we haven't really grasped yet is, and we want to do that for UIKit 8, but is how can we customize UIKit 8 and how can we make it easy that we have these different options, right? So, for example, how could we make it easier that we could have the stages at the bottom or at the top, right? Right now, it's when it comes by default, we have to make a decision, right? Right now it's at the bottom. How can we make it more like a configuration setting so that for your app, maybe you say, well, adding KGS at the top in the header makes more sense for my app. For example, my case manager, how do we make it easier that for your app, maybe you don't want to have this layout, or you want to have the alternate version where the links are at the top. So all these kind of configurations, we haven't really been able to. We are struggling to find how can we better address that. So if anybody has some inputs around that, feel free to post that on the mesh. How do you want to see customization of the UIKit? And that's really the big thing. And definitely we want to improve this for UIKit 9.
Yeah, that's really awesome because we actually are currently taking advice. We're doing a full UI inventory, understanding where there's gaps and stuff like that. So if you guys are seeing things, definitely put it up there now. We're really starting to take that stuff into consideration as we move forward for UIKit 9 and forward.
Okay, great. We are going to wrap up these meetings. Again, you have people in Alabama and Bangalore. Feel free to follow up with them after this meeting. Right? And I will post the mesh, the slides on the mesh. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.